Are we ready?
Yep.
I hope we're ready because we're here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Jesse Lewis. And after a hiatus of years, I haven't done one of these since 2020. Holy potatoes, that's a long time. But I am with Judgmentalist. That's right, he'll judge you. Just kidding, he probably won't. Anyway, Jobeth Bowers. He is a stage hypnotist, and he's going to be talking about, well, PHS, the Performing Hypnosis Summit that's coming up at the end of the month here. And well, Jobeth, I want to talk to you about your first 2 years in business
Okay.
specifically. But before we do that, tell me what your talk is about and what you're going to be talking about at the Performing Hypnosis Summit.
Well, we're going to get into what you want to ask me about by me describing my talk because I'm happy to number one, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about the Performing Hypnosis Summit. I'm always happy to just talk about hypnosis. So bring it on anytime, any day. Let's do it. And I want to impart this, and this is a little bit of a spoiler from the talk that I'm going to give. If you are a performing hypnotist or a clinical hypnotist or whatever you are in this world, I want to encourage you to be excited and passionate about talking about hypnosis wherever you are, whenever you are. Trust me, there are far more vegans in the world and far more people who are members of CrossFit gyms than there are hypnotists. So don't worry about how will you know that that person's a hypnotist. They're going to tell you they are. There aren't enough of us for that to become a thing. And if it is, I just coined it right here. So great. But if you aren't passionate about talking about this, explore something else because it's clearly not for you, because you should be passionate about it. Otherwise, you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it or why it's entertaining. But my talk is at PHS 2025, which is this month. I'm equally excited to be able to say it's this month because up and until 2 days ago, it felt further into the future. We're now at the time that Southwest is asking me if I've booked a hotel and if I need a rental car and all that other stuff. And if you book on Southwest, you get those emails too.
Yeah.
But I am talking about surviving year one as a stage hypnotist. And it is something that is super important, super fresh to me. I am a very fast starter. I don't do things unless I plan to do things. And what I mean by that is, and this is kind of dovetails into observations that I made not only at last year's PHS, but at other conferences, is that there are a ton of folks out there, and you watching this may be one of those folks who is super interested in this. And it doesn't even necessarily need to apply to hypnosis, because I know that this happens in other professions and other walks of life. You've invested time, you've invested money, you've invested energy and effort into learning this, but still haven't done that first show. So, spoiler alert to what's on the second or third slide of my talk is do that first show. That is like the A1 tip, because and this is something that I take from Kevin Lapine, who was my A1 day one trainer. You can't do show 10 or 10,000 until you've done show number 1.
Yeah.
And, seeing that many people and experiencing that many people that were in the room, the collective room of PHS 2024, who had not done that first show, but were super excited about why they were there and what they were doing. I was like, I need to help these folks get out ahead of this, because and both of these kind of angles are going to be part of my talk. There are a lot of things that you should be doing to help you jumpstart your career and help you be successful in the stage and performance world. But there's also a whole lot of pitfalls and traps that are out there that are going to lead you in the wrong path, that are going to have you spinning your wheels. They're going to waste additional time, additional money, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to share all of that because I came from, I am not, it's not lost on me that my career path has kind of given me some advantages that not everybody has. Okay. I am still today In fact, I'm sitting here. You wouldn't think this from looking behind me and the monstrosity of organization that is behind me and all of this fun shit, that I am. So somebody knows Marie Kondo, and somebody is the bane of her existence. I trust me, all of this brings me joy on some level.
You don't see here. This is horrible here. Back there, it's a set.
which is a brilliant allegory for what we do on stage.
Absolutely.
Because your box right there might be the outward presentation of somebody's stage show, and this is a more of a representation of what gets us there and what really goes into it. You know, success is kind of like an iceberg, and most of those people that are out there judging you are only looking at that little tip, not everything that's under the water. How many more of these little trite sayings can we get into this talk? But it's all true. You know, people aren't making this stuff up just to hear themselves talk 90% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, one of the big thing, you know, I'm a lawyer. That is my day job. I am a full-time lawyer. I run my own practice. I have a great deal of success, which has given me a great deal of freedom and ability to do things that I want to do. I can afford, both financially and the time, to hop on a plane and do a week-long fringe festival.
Mm-hmm.
I can be dissatisfied with the way that the camera that I am recording my shows turns out and drop money on better equipment. So I'm not talking about any of that in my talk. Everything that I'm talking about in my talk is something that, regardless of where you are, whether you want to do this full-time, whether you want to do this part-time, whether you want to jump in and start with a goal of being full-time within a year, which I think your talk is something that's going to help people out with as well. Or if you only want to be part-time, but you want to maximize the ability to get the gigs you want, to get the fees that you want, to not spin your wheels, to not waste time. All of it's kind of part of it. And I just, you know, again, it was something that I hatched the idea for this talk based entirely on what I observed from last year's PHS. And it was kind of an assessment of, you know what, from this slate of talks, I think this little thing is missing for a big chunk of people, and I'm going to bring it here next year. So
that's what I saw missing, is that there was an element of, this is my story. And Alex, actually, when he did an interview with you, he talked, I think it was with you, or he might have done it by himself, but he was talking about his talk being basically self-masturbating, where it was, oh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. People don't care about that. They want help. They want the help to actually go out and do it. And most of the time, a story's not going to do it. An actual action that people take is going to do it, right? Dean Hankey, I don't know if you know him, but he's a magician, and he says action takers are money makers, which I'm sure isn't his, but that's the truth. If you never do that first show, you'll never get to your 10,000th show. I just hit, I'm pretty close to 1,000 now, and I've been doing this this is the 19th year, and it's been how I made my living. Watching you in your 2-year journey that you're on right now, what do you think was the number one biggest thing you've learned on that in the first 2 years?
Biggest. I mean, I could tell you that one of the things that, for me, because I came from, and I'm still very active in a world where it's a different stage, but I'm a performer. As a trial lawyer, I am presenting to people. I am capturing and maintaining attention. So there was a different type of learning curve for me in the world of hypnosis. I think one of the biggest and most valuable things that I got, and the things that I cherish the most out of the first kind of year or so of my doing this, was opportunities that I had for dense flight time. And when I say dense flight time, I don't mean just doing a lot of shows. I mean doing a lot of shows in a compact period of time. So 2 places in which I got the most dense flight time. For anybody who is aware of Alan Sands and Misty and the Sandman, they do an annual boot camp at a county fair or a state fair somewhere in the northwest of the US usually. And I know it's different places, different years and everything. I got to do, myself and 2 other hypnotists that were there this past July, I want to say that I did 7 or 8 shows in 5 days. So when I first started, I was doing a show and then it would be 3 or 4 weeks till my next show. And then 3 or 4 weeks till my next show, which is great. I mean, if you can get that kind of flight time starting out, that's fantastic. But I want to get better. And there's 2 things that boot camp offered me. Number one, probably one of the more harsh environments as far as just audience setup, volunteer selection, or accessibility, or what have you. I would say that probably the only more difficult sort of setting is if you were like headlining a Vegas stage with a drunken, like, basically if you were living in Kevin Lepine's world where he's not only in Las Vegas, but he's downtown. So they are hooking you up to it might be alcohol, it might be something else, injection as you step onto Fremont Street. And the way that you will be by the time you get to his show in his showroom, 8 or 9 p.m. Woohoo! Yes. Fun people, but in a totally different direction.
Yes.
At these fairs, it's not a ticketed event. You're on the midway. So people are coming in and coming out of the show. Your need to maintain and capture attention is so much higher in a setting like that. But the ability to do a show, and in this setting, which is great. I mean, this sounds like I'm giving a plug for Misty and the Sandman and their boot camp. And why?
You know what?
It's great.
You know what? Let's plug Alan.
Yeah.
Alan is a hell of a performer. He's been doing it for at least 30 years, right? His dad wrote the book literally on rope magic.
Yeah.
Like, to be frank, Alan is a legend. I don't always agree with him, but he is a legend. And that's the beauty of our community. I'm sure that we have stuff that we don't agree about too, but you know what? The truth is that our job is to build this up. Our job is to make hypnosis as prominent as it was in the days of, 1 second. Come off the wall. This is Peter Ravine. He's a legend. He's from Australia. And Jobeth, do you know about Ravine?
If I know anything about the world of hypnosis in Canada, I better.
So Ravine was from Australia, and he traveled Canada coast to coast for years and years and years. And he's the reason why they say Ravine on a show like Trailer Park Boys. They talk about him a little bit. We don't have anybody in our industry right now that is anywhere close to that level. Either nationally, Matt Hale in Australia might be the closest we have to that. And it's a sad fact that I think we as an industry have failed bringing ourselves up. We were the old boys club for a long, long time in our industry. There was 12 hypnotists. Sorry for going off on a tangent. No, please. Look, but there was 12 hypnotists that controlled everything.
We are here to promote the Performing Hypnosis Summit.
Exactly.
Which at its root is designed to build and solve the problem that you're discussing. So please.
Yes. Yes. So how we do that is we do interviews like this. And yeah, there's nobody watching right now, but I will guarantee you that this video will be seen by a couple hundred people on the various different channels. People are interested in hypnosis, but there is so much, sorry everyone, shit. There is a lot of shit out there and people doing dumb things that it has made our industry look very bad. I'm not just talking dirty shows. I'm talking about dangerous stuff. And there is no need for that. We have the funniest shows on the planet by far. We have real people coming up and doing stupid, stupid things. Usually not embarrassing if you're an ethical hypnotist, right? How do we transform that? How do you see the vision of going from where we are now to actually being in the mainstream? Do you see a path for us to do that?
I definitely think that there's one there, and it comes from having the right mindset when doing these shows. You mentioned, when I had my initial training, we spent almost the entire first day, and at least it was the theme for the entire first day, whether, there obviously there was some practical learning, but we spent a ton of time talking about safety and ethics. And they're super, super important. And it really helped me to develop this mindset and just this understanding of this community of folks like yourself and others who are interested in elevating this community. When I do this show, and the first one here is a little bit selfish, am I going to have a conversation with the booker about rebooking? Assuming that it's not like a one-off type of situation, but I do a lot of fundraiser shows, and a lot of those are with schools or nonprofits. So they're never not needing to raise money. So rebooking is always on the table. Am I putting on a show that has them excited to talk to me about getting another date on the calendar? Secondly, if it's a venue where, let's say it's like a theater gig that I'm just getting booked to do a ticketed show, the next time, whether it's Jesse Lewis or Alan Sands or Kevin Lapine or whoever it might be that has themselves or their representation reaching out to this venue about doing a hypnosis show, did my show make it easier for them or more difficult for them to book?
Yeah.
And then the third element is about everybody that's out there in the audience, my volunteers on stage, their family members, all of the other participants that are just there watching and enjoying the show. The next time that they are somewhere, whether where we are now or in that community, or maybe they've gone to Vegas and they see a hypnosis show, is my show making them more or less likely to want to go to that show? And if I'm getting more yeses than nos, I'm doing my job. And I think that establishing and maintaining a mentality that's similar to that, you don't need to have that same exact thought process that I do, but I think it's a good one. Are you paving the way to elevate the profession, or are you, and again, we didn't come on here to badmouth anybody, and I'm not going to name any names, but like, are you doing dangerous stuff? Are you doing embarrassing stuff? Are you putting people on the ground or in other uncomfortable situations, whether it's physically uncomfortable or emotionally uncomfortable? Or are you really making them have a great time, want to come back? Like when you're in a situation, and I'll keep referring back to Kevin, because Kevin is running a show that the perception of his show is make or break for the next night, for the next week, for the next month, for the next year. If people are embarrassed and don't even want to admit that they went to that show's not going to live very long. And I think as performers need to realize that what we do doesn't just impact our show and our ability to get booked. It certainly does. That's the first thing that's going to be hit. But again, if you do a terrible show, and I don't mean like it didn't go well, I mean you're a shitbag and you're treating people like assholes. Like if you do a show that people don't like, I can tell you that not only are you not getting rebooked, but when Jesse or myself or Alan or any other people who have, any of the presenters that will be speaking and have fantastic track records of doing great shows, when they call that venue and that organization, they're going to be like, hey, read between the lines. This is what we think of hypnosis. And you did that.
There was an entire industry in what we do that failed until it was opened up about 10 years ago. And that was cruise ships.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened in the cruise industry between the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, but somebody seriously fucked up, because you could not even be a hypnotist on a boat. They wouldn't let you do it. Another one that I see all the time.
I was just 3 weeks ago, I went on a cruise, And Carnival almost didn't let me on the boat, and I wasn't there to work. I was just there, and they happened to know I was. No, I'm kidding.
You know what I mean, though. Like
Yes.
that was ruined for a long time. And when we're looking at our shows, one thing I always look at is who's actually in front of me. There's different things that are suitable for a Vegas audience. For instance, how do I put this? Phallus-shaped suckers were used in Vegas hypnosis shows for a long time, and that's not quite appropriate for everybody. I look at as well. Just on the 22nd of December, I did a show way up north, and I had to come up on my stage and said, "You're not going to hypnotize me. I'm going to try anyway." I was hypnotized years ago. The guy made me eat an onion that I thought was an apple. He stood on me, and he made me hump a chair. Now, are those things funny? Sure, they're funny to you, they're funny to me, they're funny to everybody in the audience. But you know how that guy felt? He told me that he felt like complete dog shit, like he was used.
And that guy is
right.
Somebody's is right, but they're also somebody's son.
Yep.
Who might be in the audience. Mom or dad might be in the audience, or they might be a father, or a mother, or a sister, or a daughter.
Yep.
So it's not just that person that's on stage. Few show, like if you and again, this is more inside knowledge for people that are four-walling events. If you've four-walled an event, how many ones are in that column? Very few. People are showing up in pairs, in fours, in bigger groups. They're not coming alone. The last thing they want to do, especially to a hypnosis show, is come alone.
That what makes it funny is the group you're with, and the thought that one of your partners could be up there, or one of your people could be up there. That's what makes it funny.
One of the greatest things, especially for somebody who's never seen one of these shows, is to recognize how out of character their friend or family member on stage is. If I asked her to do that, she wouldn't do it, but this guy's getting her to do it. Well, now you know there's something that's happened here. Okay, we call it hypnosis. Other people, who knows what they call it, but you know, if you're there and it's just you and you don't know any of these people, how do you know they're not all shills? How do you know let's not break down the economics of, could I actually hire 10 people to come up here on stage for every show and bring home money for myself? Of course not. But it's seeing that person and them shed that skin that you're used to them having and become that superstar on stage. That's what you go for. Yep. And then, you decide one day that it's going to be you up there, and then your friends get to enjoy it.
Exactly. The thing about doing that dirty skit is, how many people has that man talked to over the years that he said, yeah, the hypnotist made me eat an onion?
Yeah.
How many of you said that, yeah, the hypnotist stood on me and my back hurt, even if it didn't? We're not going to get into the legalities of that.
Yeah.
But that's a huge risk that people take, is standing on people doing the human bridge. And as far as humping a chair, what exactly is funny about humping a chair? I get it. It's stupid that he's doing the motion, but there's better options than that.
There's plenty of other choices that can be done to get somebody to act out of character.
Yes.
And, I see this, one of my big beefs, and again, it all comes down to choices. I've seen hypnotists do shows. One of the things that is kind of a popular nuance to show up in these is getting somebody to speak like the Martian language or some alien language.
Using say they're going to speak Chinese or Hungarian or something like that.
And now we're
potentially perceived as racist.
Yes, exactly. So make the choice of let's take something that could be perceived as mocking, and let's mock somebody who, quote unquote, that doesn't exist. Yes. Therefore, the likelihood of you offending somebody is almost zero. Whatever. There could be some conspiracy theorists in an audience that might get, offended with that. Great. If I offend you because I made my people speak an alien language that doesn't actually exist, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I welcome the negative review. Just be very descriptive in how fantastic I was and how amazing it was that these people did what they did in your review, because people can really create a 5-star review out of a 1-star review if you put enough in there. But yeah, it's all about choices and making choices. And again, I bring it back to those pillars of, am I going to be able to get rebooked here? Is somebody else going to get rebooked here? And are members of this audience going to want to go to other hypnosis shows? And if I could say yes to most of those, if not all of those things, then I've done a great show.
That's awesome. Before we end this, we're at 25 minutes. The one question I have is, you talked about being led down paths, certain paths earlier, different things that maybe don't actually work as far as hypnosis goes or as business goes. I want 2 examples. Do you have to?
Well, one of the big ones,
without actually saying any names.
Oh, I was just going to talk about general concepts and things that, and these are kind of spoilers into the presentation. But as far as things to not do and to avoid, number one, don't buy any lists, email lists, contact lists. All of that stuff is hooey. It's hogwash. It's going to put you in a position to get your email address or your email server blackballed, and the return rate on it is so minimal that, you know, and if you're cold emailing somebody anyway, there's a substantial chance it's just going to end up in their spam box anyway. So they'll never have seen that email. They'll never, just think about how many emails you clear out of your inbox every day without even opening them because you see the subject line. It's not hitting the chord with you. Move on. Don't even do that stuff. Don't waste that time. Also, another thing for new performers that I'll recommend or recommend not doing is don't ever work for free. Once you work for free, you will always work for free.
You always work for free. That's the thing. People don't understand that. Yeah, I did Susie's birthday party for $3. No, stop. Stop working for free. You're worth more than that. I actually have a story that I'm going to be telling about one of my friends that used to work for pizza that got mad at me because I booked a $2,500 show and I took an agent fee from it, but I still booked him for $2,000. He got mad at me because he wasn't getting the full price. I'll tell that at PHS though. Anyway, so yeah, don't work for free. And maybe if it's your very first show, but after your first one, as long as it's successful, don't work for free.
There are still ways to not work for free.
Do a ticket split.
Right. That's the easiest way to do it. And again, in my talk, we're going to talk about a lot of the types of places that you can approach, what I call the low-hanging fruit to really get started. You know, the places that you don't, you know, because if you're sitting here and you're within that first year, you're not booking a cruise ship.
Nope.
You don't have the resume, the experience, the video promo to go in. You don't have the package that they're looking for. It doesn't mean that you're not a great performer. And you probably, you know, many of you are probably qualified to do the show. But being qualified to do the show and being able to actually get booked by a decision maker are 2 totally different things. Wow. So there's what I call some low-hanging fruit, which are the great places to start getting that flight time. And you know, that's the, and when you, and again, circling back to that density of flight time, the ability to do a show and immediately reflect on the show, which you're going to do anyway. Also, specifically with Alan and Misty, to get their experience, their insight, their tutelage, tweak the things that you want to tweak, and then go back out and do the next show tomorrow or later today. There's nothing better than that density of flight time because of the turnaround and not having that lag and not forgetting that one little thing that you want to say a little differently or deliver differently, or maybe the blocking is one of the things that you might be looking at. And again, it's different for everybody. Your own stage and performance experience will dictate your needs. One of the other things that I want to kind of stress in this talk is don't be a training collector. one of the slides in my, and I'm not saying to not, educate yourself, but one of the things that may not be one of the most popular things in my talk is I tell people, don't do a second training until you've done at least 10 shows.
Mm-hmm.
Because getting better would be the reason that you want to do that second training or an additional training or somebody else's perspective on it. It's highly likely, not guaranteed, because there are some hacks out there and some people who realize that it's easier to charge people money and teach them how to do this thing than it is to just go do this thing. But if you've trained with a reputable trainer to do a stage show, trust me, you have all of the tools that you need to do a stage show. So go do 10, record them all. I'm like backdoor doing my presentation now, but that's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Record them all, because future trainers, mentors, your past trainer, if they're willing to, other colleagues, folks like Jesse or myself can take a look at that and be like, oh, you know why that didn't work the way you wanted it to? This word. And it's probably as simple as one word. It is.
Yes, it was
always as simple as one word.
I can actually give an example of this. I was contacted by a guy that's just doing street stuff, and he was doing the hand stick to the table, and his wording was out of order. He couldn't make it successful. His wording was just out of order. And as soon as he made that switch, bam, every bloody damn time. And it was as simple as that. I don't remember the exact wording because I don't have it in my head right now, but yeah, it's that simple.
But we've all, if we've successfully done a show, we've all experienced that almost unexplainable moment of the bridge.
Yes,
of
absolutely.
It's this now, and now it's that. That's that change in the state of mind. We've all seen it.
It happens.
Pointing that back to us is always so difficult. Of what do I need to tweak here to create that change?
And let's actually break a big myth down here before I close the show. We're at 32 minutes. I don't want to take too much of your time, but
look, I opened this by saying I'll talk about this all day, every day. So let's go.
For me personally, I've been doing this for 20 years. The hypnosis is secondary. Now, that might sound crazy, but it's secondary. My job is to go out there and entertain people. If I can get them to do 3 or 4 things, I consider them hypnotized. For instance, if I can get them during my induction to laugh, guess what? They're mine for the rest of the show. And it's as simple as I do what's known as the EKG. It's a Jeff Ronning-Ellman thing. But at the end of that, when I'm doing sleep now, 1, 2, 3, sleep now, fractionating down, I get them to start laughing. And that fractionates them as well. And once they're starting doing an action, they continue to do actions. It's really weird how it works. But that's that bridge that you're talking about. It's going from sleep now to actually having something happen to them. And I don't know if you've ever been part of a group that's laughing and wondered why they laughed and just started laughing randomly, almost like a yawn. But that's that bridge where it's automatic. It's infectious, and it just happens. And I love it when it does, because as soon as you do that, you know who you're keeping and who you're not keeping, and it works great. You brought up low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit has been used for years in this industry. I first heard it from Jeff Ronning, which is what most of those tools are. I'm going to give a spoiler on low-hanging fruit markets. Actually, I won't. I'm going to guess. Service clubs, bars, schools for fundraisers, restaurants with banquet rooms. Those are all low-hanging fruit. Am I incorrect?
You are absolutely correct. And now I want to bring up my slide. I'm not going to share it here, but I want to just cross-reference to be like, did you forget anything that's already on my list?
I have a list of like 60 of them that sports clubs, for instance, hockey teams, any minor sports team needs to raise funds. Equipment is goddamn expensive.
Yeah.
Most venues, like event centers, if they're run by local people, they'll do a show at a 50-50 ticket split for 50-50 ticket split. You just have to promote it. And that brings me to another important point, is serving our clients. How do you think we can serve those low-hanging fruit clients in our first 30 shows better than what we as hypnotists have in the past?
Well, I think one of the things that I try to do with my fundraiser shows is make it the easiest thing that they have ever done. It's important that they know ahead of time what their role is and what my role is before the show and at the show.
Yeah.
And being a good performer, and I'm not talking about your show. I'm talking about the professional elements of being early, being prepared, being the easiest person to work with, period.
Yeah.
Make what is normally the most stressful part of the process, the day of the event. You think about people running around with chickens with their heads cut off, or whatever, you might envision about the insanity that is the day of the event. Their heavy lifting should stop the moment. The heaviest lifting that they do on the day of the show should be checking in people who have already bought tickets. If you can make that where the baton is passed and all of the rest of the work, set up, clean up. I say that for the rest of you who are also doing, routines in your show that might have something to do with napkins or other things that are messy.
The old snow machine,
whatever it might be,
yep.
Be the easiest person that they've ever worked with, period. It's going to go back to those three things of, am I going to get rebooked? Am I making it easier for others to get rebooked? And not so much the third one, because the audience doesn't care or know about that, of how easy you were to work with. But I sell that as part of my pitch of these are our roles leading up to it and where the work is. Day of, I need A, B, C, D, whatever those things might be for the venue. And that's it. I will be there on time, really early. I will have everything that I need to do this show. What the venues also don't know is that not if, but when their sound system is not up to snuff for me, I have my own and I'm prepared. It doesn't matter. Like, I am as bulletproof as you can be when it comes to showing up for a performance.
Here's one for you that most people miss. Hygiene. And
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but as grown adult men, we stink. We smell bad. And it's amazing how many performers I have to tell, you need to shower before you go. Or you need to have a hotel room where you can shower and brush your teeth because you smell like ass.
Yeah.
The other one is for the smokers out there, for the people who do other things. Don't do it at the back door of the venue. Go to your car and do it. And if you are a smoker, sorry, Jobeth, if you're a smoker, but you smell really bad, whether you can smell it or not.
Well, you can't smell it. I can tell you that almost certainly. But hey, guess what?
Are you a smoker?
No.
Oh.
If you are a smoker and a hypnotist, I guarantee you that there will be somebody in your market or a market that you are targeting that this is not my presentation, that will gladly create synergy. You can stop smoking probably in one session, because you as a hypnotist should be more attuned to the prospect of change work internally than the random off the street client. And then circling back to, if you don't love talking about this, also, if you don't understand what I'm saying right now, you might want to consider another profession. But one of the things that I get all the time, and I'm sure you do too, is after the show, hey, I hear hypnosis can help with the problem I have.
Yep.
Is that something you do? Find a partner who does that if you don't.
If you don't, absolutely find somebody who does it. And I'll tell you a secret on that too. You're probably going to get to it, but take 20% of everybody that you refer over. If they're charging the proper amount for hypnosis services, which we're not going to get into, go look at Jason Lynette's stuff. He's got some pricing. But if they're charging a proper amount, 20% isn't too much for a free client for them. Because that's what it is. It's a free
And
client.
right. And on the converse, if you are watching this and you are not a performance hypnotist and you do not have the personality, desire, or can't get over the prospect of doing it, find one of us.
Yes.
Work with one of us. Because when I do a show, at a minimum, and again, this varies based on the venue and the setup, but at a minimum, there are 50 to 100 people who have some, even if it's just entertainment, interest in hypnosis.
Yes.
That are sitting in the room. So as the practitioner who's doing change work, what would you give for 50 to 100 leads all at once?
On top of that, they've actually seen the power of what's achievable.
Correct.
So they already are pre-existing brain power there.
If I can make Johnny do this, having you relax or quit smoking or eat better, that's easy.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Absolutely.
My shows take far longer than what can be done in a session.
Mm-hmm.
It's
dumb question for you. Over the last 2 years, you've probably found clients that you don't want to work with anymore. What do you do with those clients at this time? It's a hard question, right?
Honestly, I wouldn't say that it's clients specifically that I don't want to work with, but I've learned a lot about how to improve the process for everybody. And I take a lot of this stuff personally. I take a lot of it onto my own shoulders, something that is probably going to be my 2026 talks series. Because this year I'm talking about how to survive the first year. Mm-hmm. Last year, 2024, I was doing talks on how to take mentalism routines and make them look like hypnosis. Because I came from the mentalism world as far as performance is concerned. And instead of abandoning mentalism, I just reframed and repackaged everything I was performing or cut it so that it looked like a hypnosis routine. So I could still go up there and I could say, hey, I'm judgmentalist. I'm a hypnotist. I'm not going to hypnotize anybody tonight because of, and then there's some sort of joke that I tell that has to do with insurance or the size of the stage or some sort of bullshit. I've made it all up, whatever it is, but it's a little jab somewhere into nowhere where I'm not really offending anybody, but I am going to show you about the power of your own mind, the power of suggestion, the power of influence. And then I literally go into the same pre-talk that I would do if I was doing a hypnosis show, and then all of these other things. And these things that present like hypnosis, even though I'm not putting anybody into trance. So this year we're talking about surviving year one. Next year, I'm going to really start to talk about the evolution of my fundraiser formula, because I started just doing the 50-50 door splits, which were all fine and good. And then I would encourage these organizations to sell sponsorships and what they would do with the sponsorships, this, that, and the other. And the one thing that I quickly noticed is that they're not doing it. They don't have time. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this from experience. And this is 20 extra years. Sorry for going into coaching, everybody. But the reason they don't do it is because they don't know how, and they don't have a package designed to actually do it.
And they don't have the time to do it. They don't have full-time staff to do it.
Yes.
So now I do it.
Yes.
I do it. My team does it. Guess what? This is what the result is. I make more money. They make more money.
More money.
Oh yeah.
I
have literally, my business model has changed so much in the past year with respect to fundraiser shows that I don't do 50-50 on the door split anymore. I take $5 a head. And I encourage them to charge between $25 and $35 a ticket. And I get 5 of it. Why? Because my money is made in the sponsorships. And guess what? They still make more money from the sponsorships I sell.
And here's the thing about the sponsorship. People think a sponsorship's like $50. It doesn't have to be. It can be, but I've got sponsorships for events for $10,000.
Yeah.
And yes, a portion of that goes back to the club. But a large portion of it goes to me because I did the legwork for
Yeah.
them. And they're thrilled with it
And
because they're
regardless of
getting money for
whatever,
free.
regardless of whatever percentage it is, whether it's 30, 50, 70% of that money, and they're receiving, let's take the worst case scenario for the organization that you're taking 70%.
Yeah.
I think it's a little high, but whatever. It'll work if it works.
Yep.
You are giving them 30% of something they wouldn't have had in the first place, and they are doing zero work.
They don't know how to do it is the biggest problem. And then I call this the George issue. When I first started, George was the name of every fair promoter or every fair booker. And I'm not kidding. There was 6 of them that were all named George. They were all 70 years old or older, and they had been doing the same stuff for 30 to 40 years, getting the sponsors locally, charging $25, and their fares did not grow, period. By implementing a digital strategy, which was new at the time, by implementing actual benefits for those sponsors, like sponsored videos or sponsored ads and things like that, it changed the whole dynamic of some of these fairs. Where they were failing before, they started to make a lot more money, and I taught them how to do it. In retrospect, I never should have done that, and I should have been doing it just myself.
So here's one thing about interviews, podcasts, these types of things that I'm a big believer in. If you can, whether planned or unplanned, and this certainly falls into the unplanned category, put the juiciest nuggets at the end. Yes. All right. Because 15 minutes ago, you told me we were wrapping this thing, and here we are.
Yeah, I know. I think we did this in our interview too.
Oh, yeah, of course. And it's great. All right. Because if you've made it this far, I'm going to give you the big secret that's not even in my presentation because I didn't think about it as contemporaneous to me laying out all of these. And it's still a work in progress. I'm 3 weeks away from PHS, so it may make it in there. Don't work for free. Don't ever work for free. I was approached by a local chamber of commerce about doing a show for them at one of their an awards banquet of theirs. And they're like, we have a really tight budget. What would it cost for you to come here? And I'm like, how about this? You guys have such and such festival that you run. It's a street festival this summer. I want to give you a package price to do this 20-minute thing that you want me to do that's quite frankly not worth my time, and do your street festival that I actually want to do.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker that swings back to sponsorships. I will go and sell the sponsorships to the businesses that will cover my cost. When you get somebody to agree to that, which is you doing your thing that you want to do at no direct cost to them, I still haven't talked to these folks about what my price is for this 2-banger. Yeah. I've already, and the best part is they wanted me to do like 10, 15 minutes of something. They don't care. They don't know the difference between hypnosis and mentalism and magic. Week of the event. Hey, how much time do I have? Well, we can give you probably like 30 minutes. Any chance I can get 40? Hold on. Yeah. Okay, great. I can do 40. I'm going to do the whole hypnosis show there. Because ultimately, I want to do that show. I don't want to do the other stuff.
Yep,
I want to do the hypnosis show. I want to show this thing. I want to share this thing that I have with people. I don't know what I'm going to get paid for this period of gigs, but I'm probably going to go and sell it somewhere between 3 to 5 sponsorships at $1,000 a piece. So I'm going to make somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 for doing these shows. And you know who's the happiest about it? The people receiving $0 for it. Yep. I'm second happiest because I'm making the money that I'm making. And it's such a win. It's a paradigm shift. It's a mindset shift to create these scenarios that are wins for every single person involved.
Yeah.
And it can happen. It works.
I was contacted about 3 weeks ago from a group that it's 52 communities that come together, and they only have a budget of $1,500. That'll pay my travel. And I said, okay, what do you normally charge for sponsorship? Because my price is this much. And I said, okay, I will do your show for $1,500, but you're also giving me a free sponsorship. You're going to list me as a sponsor for your event. What does that get me? Nothing financially. And I told them, I will also look for several other sponsors that you can have 50% of that money. I keep 50% to get back up to where my fee is. But I also want to have table tents on every table, and I want to be put into the swag bags at the same time. Now, I have access to 52 potential bookings, actual potential bookings, because those are the specific people that would book for that. So
It's
what am
far
I
more than
losing?
52, which is a great point from my talk of there is so much work in your backyard.
That you have no idea.
You have to just think about it and just get into that mindset.
Yeah.
But I have a blank check to do a show that I want to do.
Yep.
Create that for yourself.
Exactly.
And this is the best part is there are so many more potential shows, gigs, and opportunities than there will ever be performers. So guys like us, we are ecstatic to share this with you at something like PHS.
Dumb question, Jobeth. Me and Richard Cole. Sorry.
Yeah.
We have this discussion quite often is how many hypnotists do you think are actually working in the world as far as stage hypnosis goes? Because it's primarily the US and Canada. Really everywhere else, Australia maybe?
What is your definition of really working? Is it a gig a month? Is it more than a gig a month?
Well, here's the thing about that. I only perform 30 shows a year.
Right.
But let's just say my income is pretty good. So I consider a full-timer somebody who brings in their full-time income or the equivalent of a full-time income, even if they're doing something else with hypnosis. That's my definition of full-timer. That's who I would say. Now, some guys, there are people charging $30,000. So theoretically, they do 4 shows a year. They don't have to do anything else, right?
Yeah.
For me, I'm sitting at about the 30 show mark. How many people do you think are actually working that make their living from doing this? I guess is a better question.
I can tell you right now that if I were Vegas and an odds maker, the over under number has 2 digits, not 3.
Yeah.
Certainly not 4.
Yeah. And I would say that that's worldwide, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of more than I'm part of several groups. Like PHS, I know who's there, but a lot of the PHS people have never actually performed. I'm part of ISHA, which is International Stage Hypnosis Association, and like I think they have 80 members now, but how many of them aren't actually working? It is the big question. I really don't think there's more than 100 of us, and I wagered back to 50 that actually make our living doing this.
Yeah, you're probably right in the range of the target. Yeah.
And what does that mean? Well, for me, there's 40 million people in Canada, and what is it, 350 million in the States now, something like that. If you're not working as a hypnotist and you think you could make your living doing this, I will guarantee you can make your living doing this if you actually put in the work to do it.
You can make a living doing this without leaving your state or your province.
Unless you're in Wyoming. I will say Wyoming is probably not possible.
Okay, sure. Or
Alaska.
But on the other side of this, if you're in a very, very populous area, you can do it without leaving your county.
Yeah.
You could do it without, if you were in New York City, you could do it without leaving Manhattan.
I know guys who do.
Obviously that perspective is a little, specific to where you are. But if you are in a situation where being a road warrior is not for you, is not for your family, like I'm not exploring cruise ships right now because I got kids at home. It's not for me now. Will I be on cruise ships in 7 years? Probably, but I'm not doing it today. It's not something I'm targeting today. Am I meeting the right people and networking with the right people to be able to be like, I'm ready, let's go. Performance wise, I'm ready. Package wise, I'm ready. Schedule wise, I'm not. So it's not for me today.
Let's talk about that. The package. I'm sorry. You said you could talk all day. We're way over.
Here we are.
When you first started, what kind of package did you have when you did your very first show?
when I did my very first, I four-walled my very first show. So the only video that I had to put together anything that resembled a promo reel for the very first show was part of my training included doing a student show. So when Kevin Lapine, when you go to Vegas and you learn with him, I came in with zero knowledge, only curiosity and performance background, but not in hypnosis. I didn't know the first thing about it. In fact, I went and talked to him ahead of time, being like, hey, what should I read to prepare? And was told, don't read anything. Don't even don't ever type hypnosis into YouTube before you come see me. And then about a month or two before the training, Jeff McBride, who is a brilliant and legendary magic, not only performer, but mentor and teacher, gave me a book on hypnosis. So I reached back out to Kevin and I said, hey, I wouldn't ask you this based on what you've told me if this book were given to me by anybody but Jeff McBride. Should I read this? No, come cold. Okay. I came cold. In 5 days, I had everything that I needed to do a proper, safe, and ethical stage show at any level between all ages to pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
And I had video of me doing a student show that was in, great resolution to cut up and be able to do what I needed to do. So I just pulled promo clips out of that. And I record every show that I do. And after the very first show, when the recording wasn't what we wanted it to be, because I actually do a 2-act show with a mentalist. So he does 45 minutes and then we take an intermission and I do 45 minutes. That's probably about 60 to 70% of my shows.
Between Two Minds, right?
Between Two Minds. Yep. 60 to 70% of my shows are that format. And then I do all the other just solo stuff that I do. He's like, hey, one day, this is what, kind of circles back to my pre-created kind of my personal advantages by being a trial lawyer. He's like, what we need to do eventually, because the lighting was just not great for the cameras that we had, because we were in a proper theater. We had all of the lights and everything was exactly what we wanted it to do, which sucked for the cameras that we had. It's kind of,
stage lights are horrible. For those of you that don't know, that are watching, stage lights flipping suck. They completely distort almost everything on stage when you're recording, unless you're 1.5 feet away from what you're recording, and you can't have cameras that far.
Or unless you have a monster of a camera set up. And he's like, hey, eventually we need to get this. And I'm like, is it on Amazon? Yes. Send me a link. Okay. It'll be here Tuesday. Not everybody's going to have that ability. So, but the moment that I could upgrade what I could upgrade, when I knew what I needed to upgrade, I did it. So every show gets recorded. It can be color corrected. The lights are not an issue for me. And I'm not telling you need to do this. Going and buying this Sony A7, I don't know what the fuck it is. I bought what he told me to buy. The $5,000 camera is not for everybody. You don't need to do it. There are plenty of high enough quality cameras. There's one.
Your phone will now shoot in 4K. Get somebody to sit in the bloody front row, literally the front row, with a tripod, moving your phone around, and it won't give you videographer quality, but it's good enough to book the service club. It's good enough to book the school. It's good enough to book small theaters. You don't have to be perfect. This is something I see all the time. Well, I don't have a promo pack. I don't have a video. I don't have this. I don't have that. Good. Did your wiener fall off too? Go out there, ask them if you can book the fucking show, and book the fucking show. So,
yeah.
Sorry. That sounded horrible, but
hey, you got this. Look, sometimes it's as simple as, hey, you've got this room over there. Can I have it a month from now on a Tuesday or some other slow night? I'll take the room and I'll get 50 people in here that wouldn't otherwise been here on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Let them tell you the slow night.
That they're drinking beer that wouldn't have been sold otherwise, that they're having meals that wouldn't have been sold otherwise. Yeah, you're getting $10 from a ticket and it might be sponsored, but at least their room is full. And that's one of the things that we as entertainers don't realize. it's our job as an entertainer to fill the flipping room. Whether we are booking with somebody who is a promoter or not, if we don't give them the tools, which we can build on Canva in about 3 hours, or if we don't give them our own effort to our own audience, then of course an event's going to fail. We have to promote as well. And that's something that's what one of my talks is about, is basic show promotion.
Yeah.
Because so many people think, oh, here's 15 posters, go put it up at the Lions Club and it's going to sell out 300 people. That's not how life works.
Yeah.
You have to promote and promote.
You got to do the work.
What this is all about. Sorry, I went off on a way bigger tangent than I should.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Here we are 30 minutes after we're stopping
the bell.
we're still going. Look, come to PHS,
yes.
get all of this and so much more from not just Jesse and myself, but there's what, like 30 presenters over the 3 days, maybe more?
Dude, some of us, I've been in this business 19 years as of last week, and nobody knows who the hell I am because I always kept to myself. We've got Richard Barker there.
There are some fucking superstars at the
We've got Alex Smith. We got Terry Stokes. Terry Stokes did the Stampede for like 30 fucking years in Calgary.
Yeah.
Sorry. And he's wonderful. We've got Kevin, who's headlining in Vegas right now, and he has been for years and years and years. And there's many that I've missed, I'm sure, but there are legends at what we do. The problem is they're not vocal enough. We stay in our own little world and we do our own thing. So let's get vocal, boys and girls. Let's do it.
And the Performing Hypnosis Summit will be the least expensive enrichment into this profession that you can spend money on. I guarantee you that unless you bought one of those lifetime flight packages that some of the airlines were offering back in the 80s and 90s, your flight's going to cost you more money than the conference will.
Yes, absolutely.
Your hotel's
was $390.
Your hotel is probably, unless you're a degenerate gambler like me, going to cost you more money than the conference.
Yes.
And I can guarantee you that you are going to get, I just checked it on the website. So the current price, because again, the closer you get to the event, the higher it goes up, for the in-person conference is $227.
Whoop-de-doo.
If you tell me, if you come and attend and don't get $227 worth of value out of any one speaker that you attend, I'll buy you a beer.
You're gonna buy me one anyway.
I'll probably like it's just a no-brainer. You can put anything out there. Every single one of these talks is going to be worth more if you put it into play than that. So I can't make it for all three. It's great. Whichever 2 days you can make it are going to be worth every penny that you spent on it and then some.
The beauty of this conference, it's something that Kevin talks about all the time. Get the mentor that you want to be. I'm going to be honest. Kevin will never be my mentor. I never plan on being a person that works 5 days a week. That's not, no, F that.
But some people want that. So
some people want that. And it's the same with Alan. Alan is a great guy. I listen to him. He's got great advice, but he'll never be my mentor. He's not for me. My mentor would be somebody like Wayne Lee, who talked last year about booking corporate shows and only does about 40 shows a year, but he's making a ridiculous amount of money. So when I say that, I say, you can find your actual mentor here. You can find somebody who is in your situation. Maybe they don't live right beside you, but they're in your situation where they're booking shows locally for fundraisers or fairs or festivals or corporate or bars or whatever it is. There's somebody there that has actually done it. So use them in an ethical way, of course, but use them to understand what is actually possible in this industry. We were so closed off for so bloody long, and I find that PHS really opened us up as an industry, and the International Stage Hypnosis Association also opened us up a lot. Of course, there's rules to the International Stage Hypnosis Association, like you're not supposed to do the human bridge. Well, duh, it's dangerous. You're supposed to do an ethical show. Well, ethics are flexible. We all know that. So The real reason for all this stuff is to propel our industry and our art and what we do into a different area than what we're at now. Because for years it's been hypnosis is a bad thing. Oh, the hypnotist made me do this thing. The hypnotist made me do that thing. Oh, hypnosis is kitschy. Oh, it's stooges. And that's all bullshit. That's all myths. That's all misconceptions. It's like any other tool. If we use it properly, if we promote it properly, this thing can go to the stratosphere. It really can. Sorry for yapping too much, Jobeth.
No, it's
We're going
great.
to close this out. We're at an hour and 5 minutes. I saw you look at the clock. And I got a call with Richard shortly. Hopefully he's still around. But everybody, Jobeth Bowers, the links for his site are down below, judgmentalist.com, right?
Yep.
And school fundraiser, what is your second link?
Oh gosh, I have so many websites for attacking different things. Schoolamazed.com,
Yes.
which is more specifically toward doing, I mean, there you can book me for fundraiser shows there. Trust me, anything that I want to book, I can book through any of these sites because it all comes to me. And then I also have another site that I'm working into, and this will be all part of the year 3 talks. Uniquefundraiserideas.com, which I'm starting, like the long game on that is to make it something where I am not only booking my own gigs from it, but expanding that out to other performers in other markets to kind of be a centralized hub for when people are looking for unique fundraiser ideas.
By the way, that is one of the highest search terms as far as SEO goes within my search console. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Also, Jobeth, if you haven't looked at it, look up Comedy Hypnotist Group. I don't even work in the States, just so you know. We have the same bloody idea. We really do. Anyway, Jobeth, I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
you for having me.
Yes, this has been fantastic. After the Performing Hypnosis Summit, I actually want to keep these going, so I will ask you back sometime at some point.
Let's do it.
And I think next year I'm going to do a speech on sponsorship specifically. So you should join me, and we should almost do a dual speech.
Let's do it. I like it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to end the stream. Bye, everybody that actually watched this. Have a great day. Jesse Lewis here. Jobeth Bowers, Judgmentalist. Check him out. Jobeth, what area are you in?
I am number one, wherever somebody's going to book me to fly out to. But home is in Maryland. So okay. U.S. Eastern Shore, right in the mid-Atlantic, right in the middle there. But I travel well, and I love it. My wife, not so much. So all of my doing the math on how you can do everything that you want to do and never leave your state has also been done because happy wife, happy life.
Yeah,
it is definitely a hybrid situation with the ages of my kids. But once that last one is out and kind of in college and sort of self-sustaining, look out. I'll be everywhere.
Nice. You're in the same boat as me. Anyway.